Woo! All right, well, it's time for Monday's devotional. This week we're going through Galatians 5 and 6, and I'm doing today's, obviously. My focus is on God teaching me about you, and the one thing that really sticks out to me when I went through Colossians 5 and 6, and there's a lot talking about this group of people who've come down, these teachers who've come down and have started this false teaching about circumcision, these other things that are happening, and this warning about not deceiving yourselves or being deceived by others. But then when it actually comes to about deceiving God in Galatians 6 verse 7, so that's kind of where I'm just gonna stay for the most part in today's devotional. But Galatians 6 verse 7 says, "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap." Okay, so very famous or popular verse that's often used in a threat a lot of times, but just this idea of how we can so easily be deceived, or can deceive other people or deceive ourselves. But when it comes to God, God is beyond being deceived. He can't be deceived. We can't trick him. There's no lying to God. And so the warning is, don't deceive God, because he can't be deceived. And so for us, when we lie to ourselves, or we lie to somebody else, or when we try to put on this fake persona, if that's something that's happening, or even just in situational type of things where maybe I'm just being fake just for this one situation, just to get through it, or whatever's happening. When we're not being true to God, we're mocking God, because we can't deceive him. God's not going to be fooled. And in the same way, we might be able to tell somebody, oh well, everything's great, or whatever's going on. Just however we present it, in a lie. We might be like, oh, I got away with that one, and dodged a bullet there, or that was a close one. But with God, that doesn't happen. You can't do it, and so he will not be mocked, because that's what you're doing, because you can't lie to God. So when we're being dishonest with God, we're not lying to him and hoping we get away with it. In actuality, we're mocking him. We're basically rubbing it in his face, and that's terrible. Because if you were to ask somebody, hey, would you want to mock God? Obviously, you would say no. But then how many times do we actually mock God when we do these things, when we do deceive ourselves, or when we do justify something we know God's not okay with? We think, oh, well, I justified it for myself. This is okay. This is fine. But I'm just mocking God when I do that. And so with this prayer focus about who God is, and just this passage right here, just how he's so compassionate, so forgiving, so merciful for us. But in that same sense, he's not going to be mocked. He's not going to let us, just ruin his name and be a bad example. If we're a bad example of God, then he's going to make an example of us. And we can even see in the latter part of the passage, you reap what you sow. And you just think about this giant field, and God is just like, hey, you're the worker in my field, and this is, go. Plant, reap, sow. Do these things. And that's where we kind of see that value of what we think of God in that situation, right? Because if you think about anybody who's, working in a field, you're doing that for your livelihood, you're doing that for food, whatever it is, but that importance, that value is there. Whether it's providing for your family, I value my family so much, so I'm going to toil in this field, and I'm going to, make sure that I get enough stuff to sell and produce. And if you're starving, if you're hungry, hey, I value my life. I value the life of my family. We need food. I'm going to grow this stuff. We're going to, eat. And we think about that value we put on God when we're working in his field. What are we producing? What work are we putting into in God's field? Are we treating it in the way that it should be valued according to what we think of God? Is it this top main priority? Not just this side thing where it's oh yeah, I work in this field on the side. It's like, no, this is our main thing we should be doing, is working in the field for God, and it's God's field. And how are we treating the field? You know, all these analogies can be put in there with this concept of the field, but you know, the effort we put in, what we're actually growing, what we're reaping from it, is again the quality of, you know, the value of God. Like, you know, it just baffles me, you know, even myself, when I do things that I'm just like, you know, hey, this horrible thing that I just reaped, and it's like, wow, this is what I planted in God's field, and it's just like, you know, oh yeah, this is, God's gonna be like, hey, great, I'm glad you're growing that stuff in my field. Like, no, it's crazy, and we do it, you know, constantly, and we should definitely put God as that priority, and that work in the field, and that idea of what we're sowing in God's field, like in God's field, we're sowing it, you know, we're going to reap it. Not just consequentially for us, but thinking again about that ownership of the field, that it's God's, and He's not going to be mocked. You know, if I go in there and I just start planting things that are all just deceitful lies, or, you know, things that go against God, things that make God look bad, you know, all these different things, if that's what I'm sowing in, like directly in God's field, to where He's going to see it grow, and He's going to see us reap it, and then He's going to hold us accountable to the work we put into it, the effort, not in just growing it, but then also what the quality is of it when we reap it. And so for me, it's, you know, it can be threatening, but it can also be encouraging, because then we know, like, how, again, that mercy and grace that God gives us to even allow us in the field in the first place to be planting and growing stuff, but that we know that if we're trusting in God, and if we're living our lives according to His Word, and we're, you know, sowing according to His Word, this amazing reaping that can happen from that, to where, you know, we can grow these things and be proud of it. Even, you know, we see in there even this boasting that's happening, and 5 and 6 that can be happening. And it's like, I'm not boasting in like, wow, look at how great I am, look what I did, but rather I'm boasting in God for allowing me to be in His field, and for letting this thing grow here, and for, you know, what it is, and I can be happy and take joy in that, and take pride not necessarily in myself, but in who God is, and in that I can share that with other people who are also growing things in the same field, and I don't have to worry about the thing I'm growing causing somebody else's thing a problem either. That rather we're all, you know, sowing and reaping these great things, not just this threat of, you know, whatever you sow you reap, or you reap what you will sow, you know, not just in a threat, but man, whatever you reap you will sow. So man, when we're doing all this work for God in His field, when we're putting in you know, this compassion, this mercy, this forgiveness, and this help to others, and putting others before ourselves, when we're sowing those kind of things, you know, what we're going to be reaping from that is just going to be so amazing. And just that outlook that God has on us is just being good and faithful workers in His field, you know, alone is enough to bring us joy in times where maybe the growing season is tougher, or when we're you know, just dealing with things that make our lives a little bit harder. Maybe like, I don't know, a pandemic that's separating us from meeting, or confining you to your home when you like to be out and about, or enjoy that interaction with other people. You know, in these kind of lower times, we can still have this joy, because we know that even though we're not meeting, even though we're not doing stuff like these devotional videos, and still keeping that connection with the Spirit unified with everybody in the church by doing these things online, you know, we're sowing that. You know, we're going to reap, you know, those things, and it's going to be, you know, just awesome. And I've already seen it. I've already seen the reaping happening from the sowing of stuff we've been doing since the pandemic started, and just how encouraging that is to see how, you know, willing people are to get uncomfortable, or to kind of go through some of these awkward stages, or the willingness to stay committed and loyal to what we do as a church. It's just been great. So that's my little tidbit for the devotional this week. Look for tomorrow's, and I'm looking forward to everybody else's that's going to be doing them this week. The youth lesson for this week is up. It got posted yesterday morning, so if you haven't watched it yet, you can go to the Level Up Youth YouTube channel, or just go to the church website and just go under the youth banner, and it's there, along with older devotionals if you want to watch those as well. And you can also catch up on the lesson too if you missed any of the lessons up to yesterday's. All right, well, we'll keep praying and just spread the word, not the disease. See y'all later. Bye.